Tim Blake Nelson, David Arquette, Angela Bettis, Thomas Hobson, Phil Morris, and Tara Perry star in this exciting new take on the Southern ghost story in post-Civil War Arkansas. A young doctor is mysteriously summoned to a remote town in the Ozarks, only to discover that the utopian paradise is filled with secrets and surrounded by a menacing supernatural presence. XYZ Films will release the mystery thriller Ghosts of the Ozarks on demand and on digital on February 3rd. That means just next week. Welcome to the Scare Guide Show, the official production of thescareguide.com, where we as filmmakers and movie fans discuss horror films, haunted events, spooky news, and anything that's scary fun, which includes this film. My name is Jim Fry. I'm one of your horror hosts for today's show. I'm a writer and editor-in-chief of The Scare Guide. And who do we have up here in the box with me today? Cheeseman.
I'm Luke Cheeseman. I'm a screenwriter and also with thescareguide.com.
All right. And on this week's show, we are speaking with Matt Glass and Jordan Wang Long, the co-directors of Ghosts of the Ozarks. Welcome to the show, Jordan and Matt.
Hey, thank you all so much for having us. We're super
Jordan,
excited.
just so you know.
I am Jordan. I'm Jordan.
I'm the Matt one.
We had to make sure we get that straight. Hey, welcome to the show, guys, and congratulations on Ghosts of the Ozarks.
Thank you.
Like, we just got to ask you right up front. Tell us a little bit about the production and where this idea for a ghost story set. I mean, because usually it's not what you would call like everybody's thinking about. Let's set a ghost story in post-Civil War Arkansas, but you guys did, and tell us where that idea came from.
Yeah, the reality of it stemmed from, I grew up in a small town right outside of the Ozark Mountains called Bald Knob. And
Nice.
There's this lore, they're actual people, they were called the Bald Knobbers in the 1800s, and they kind of were vigilante justice and no law could really get to them. So they kind of did whatever they wanted to. So as a kid from Bald Knob, that scared the crap out of me. And that idea kind of persisted with me. Matt and I shared the idea with him. We shot a little proof of concept in 2016. We brought on Tara Perry and Thomas Hobson for that. And as soon as they came on board, we kind of changed the story up and kind of built what it is today. But it was always meant to be in the 1860s, right after the Civil War.
Yeah. Nice. And before we get too much further into it, and before I'm going to bring Luke Cheeseman in, and he's going to ask some questions as well. But tell us a little bit about your journey as filmmakers, because you guys, the two of you, have directed more than just this film. It seems like you've worked together. You enjoy each other's working arrangement, and a lot of the people in this film have looked like they've been working with you in different capacities. Can you talk about that a little bit?
We started working together in 2013. We went to grad school together for fine art before that, or contemporary art, I guess you call it. We started doing documentaries in 2013 about artists that we admired and people we knew. And then slowly that evolved. And we started doing short films. We met people through that. And then as we were making these films, we would collect people along the way. And then now that we're starting to make feature films, we're able to offer them more jobs and more opportunities. We did 2 years ago, I guess. Did somebody come out? What year is it? We released 12-Hour Shift, which we produced and did other jobs on. And we did a feature before that called Squirrel and a couple short films. And then people like Tara and Tommy. I'm trying to think who else is in this movie that's been.
Angela Bettis
have all been. And David Arquette have all been in things that we've done before, and just kind of like
collected them over the years.
And I mean, our crew as well, just people we've met and loved and collected over the years. Like
that's nice. All right, Cheeseman.
Yeah, something with the Scare Guy we always love to do is just kind of like knowing where your like love for film or love for different types of filmmaking, especially kind of this genre, came from. Like, so growing up, like, what were your inspirations?
Nice. I just, for some reason, this came to mind. The thing that scarred me as a kid, well, two things are both nuclear war related. So maybe we need to do a nuclear war movie. But there's a movie called, is it The Day After? I think it's got like Scott Baio in it and John Lithgow from the 80s. It was a TV movie. Anyway,
The Day After.
Day After.
Yep.
And Terminator 2, when Linda Hamilton's on the fence and the thing blew up. Just like the fact that something could affect me that much as a kid. And I don't know why I was watching these radar movies as a kid, but that was definitely a big inspiration for me. And I remember when I first saw, I think I watched Pee-wee's Big Adventure a bunch of times, and then I watched Beetlejuice, and I was like, that same guy is named in both of these movies. What does that mean? Anyway, and stuff like just a little curiosity like that, and eventually it just led to wanting to make movies.
Same here. I like Raiders of the Lost Ark was the thing that really like jump started me. I got to see that in the theater. I think that was like my first movie to see in the theater, and it kind of blew me away. And I think from that point on, I just wanted to create and imagine and like figure out how to do this.
It's controversial opinion. I think I like Last Crusade better than Raiders of the Lost Ark.
I can get with that. No argument.
It's fun. Stop calling me Junior.
I know. You know what's funny though? We talk about the things that sparked our imagination early on. I am a guy that grew up loving horror movies, especially like the very first horror movie I ever saw. It was in a drive-in theater. Speaking of Arkansas, it was like 1972, one of the first found footage. You know what it is, right? The Legend of Boggy Creek.
Oh yeah,
I know Pamela. I know his daughter. And anyway,
Do you?
that's great. That's great.
Oh my gosh, that is like a class. You guys should kind of continue that mythos. I'm not going to tell you what to do. You guys are doing great here. That's a stupid thing to say.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, movies like that, like movies like The Thing for me. I mean, like those like psychological horrors where like it's about the person and like those kind of things really affected me and the way that those situations kind of happened, you know, with the dog coming in the front, like just some of those, they stick with you forever and you always kind of want to recreate them for other people. So that's fun.
I remember seeing Dead Alive during a sleepover, and when the first guy gets his arm cut off, I was like, oh, nice.
Yeah. Army of Darkness, you know, like, and then you get into it and you're like, oh, 2x4s and a DV cam, like, oh my God, like real, you know, you can do this. And you kind of start that journey. And Matt and I are from real small towns. And so that was our kind of like introduction. And so we kind of had to start making things ourselves. And I think that's kind of why we've ended up where we are. I
think the thing about horror movies that's so great, specifically ones we've been talking about, is that you can see the edges, you can see the corners, you can see the mistakes in the design sometime, and it feels human made. And that like piques your interest that like people made this. I can learn how to make this. And I think with a lot of movies this day, they're so slick nowadays that people are like, this is this unattainable $300 million goal that I'll never be able to reach. But it's nice to like go back to these movies where you see a boom mic drop in or something like that to be like, this is the thing people do.
And that's just what we do. I mean, we use so many miniatures and you know, blending of like CG and actual stuff that like that's clearly what we grew up on, and we think it looks the best when it's done right. Fun.
Well, I gotta give you props. The movie was beautiful. I mean, if you guys had a small budget on it, it didn't show up. It was beautiful. The gory parts were gory. The scary parts were scary. And let's talk about that for a second. So I guess the best way to describe this film, is it like an American Gothic horror or Western Gothic thriller? How would you describe this film and what makes it so?
I like cerebral horror. Like I like I really think it's more of a horror thriller, which I enjoy. And I don't know, what would you say?
Like a Southern folk.
Yeah.
Something.
It's honestly, man, like it's definitely birthed in like a fable. You know, every character, even the way we wrote it, you know, like Torb and Torb's Bar, that's his little mountain, you know, and like we treat them as like almost like their own little gods. And we just had fun with the writing process as far as thinking about them that way. And that really elevates them and it elevates the story we're trying to tell. And it just adds a lot of lore to that, you know.
And,
go ahead.
I was gonna say I was the composer on the film also, and I think musically, like it was more inspired by a Lord of the Rings than like a Western. So there's like more elements of like that fantasy in there to kind of aid that fable-like thing. Well, there are Western elements in it as well, but yeah, one of the like not define it too much in the
Western scape, yeah.
Which I could see that with, because there was a song in it that kind of tied to the story that was kind of like there, and that kind of had a little bit of that Lord of the Rings kind of
Jordan wrote the lyrics to that, and I wrote the music. But yeah, it's definitely like.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah.
That was like they reminisce of Pippin when he's singing the Lord of the Tale of the King there. Yeah.
Oh yeah. What a great moment in that movie, by the way.
Yeah. Oh God, so epic. And but to speak of that, Angela and Tim. Angela had never like wanted to sing before, and she actually told us in the beginning that she wouldn't, and then she learned it, and then she learned piano. and Tim was wonderful learning the parts, and they just did such a good job together that like the onset sound is used half of the song because they did so well learning it. It's really neat, really fun.
Can we, before we go any further, could you just set the stage for us? For those who may not be familiar with the Ghosts of the Ozarks, tell us a little bit, give us a little bit of what is the story about?
Really, it's about a Dr. James McCune right after the Civil War in 1866. He's summoned down deep into the Ozark Mountains because his uncle has this paradise where he's from the north. And so Tommy travels down to the south in the Ozark Mountains, and he really comes across a community that is built for him. And really, it's the story of Tommy's character, James, trying to figure out, like, even though it's built for me, like, should it be built and should it exist this way, and his, you know, his journey in figuring that out.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is that, like, for him, everything is perfect. He can be a doctor. He can work on all these people. Nobody looks at him funny. But then he starts noticing cracks where maybe other people aren't being treated so well, and other stuff is being hidden from him and being hidden from the people of the town. And then that's like, should I be okay with that I'm okay, or should I be worried that these people are in trouble?
Yeah, that's exactly right. He's good, see?
So with the love of like horror that we've talked about and everything, and, you know, seeing different aspects of filmmaking and like Terminator 2 and all that, like you guys have kind of your own effects and styles that you're doing within this, with like the red smoke, with the creature in the woods kind of a thing. And then also with just even like the masks that people wore in the town and stuff. Can you tell us about kind of the creative design and what you're kind of thinking going into all that?
Well, you were the production designer on the film also. So.
Yeah. So I production designed it, and 9 months before we shot it, I went in and built the town with my father and our first AC and our director's assistant. And so we really had full control of what that town looked like. And Matt would come out to the set, and sometimes we would move buildings because things wouldn't work right. And we were really able to look at the nuts and bolts of every aspect of it because we were kind of hands-on. And with the monster, we had a good group of artists around us that were helping us. We've done some documentaries for the Henson Company and their creature shop, and we worked with them before. And so they were some of the team members there were the ones who ended up building it for us. And it's really like just our community that we've built come around us and knock it out of the park. I mean, I'm sure you've seen the costume designs. I mean, what Brianna Quick did with that. I mean, they were sewing clothes days before for Angela Bettis, and they're just exquisite. And yeah, it's just real fun to find artists and let them rip and do what they do best.
Awesome.
Cool.
And how did you create the smoke?
We had these smoke bombs that were, I think they're for like paintball or something like that. Yep. They're supposed to be red. They're really pink, though. It was kind of a problem. And so we found out that I was the colorist in post also, so that we could color it red and it looked good. And then for scenes that were in the huge hazy, there's some scenes that are so hazy, we actually built like a Dexter-style kill room out of plastic and filled it with haze, and then just colored it red in post and darkened it in post. And that was a really weird space to be in, just people running around everywhere, screaming, going crazy. Well, it was very fun.
And for those who are listening, a large portion of the terror of the film comes from the fact that this town is menaced at nighttime by evil forces or an unseen menace. And they do a really good job of making this, whatever it is that's out there. And we're not going to ruin that part for you, but it's scary, it's creepy, and if you just got to look. We're looking at the part of the poster right now. These guys did such a good job of making that part scary, because I tell you what, there's nothing scarier than wondering what's in the woods. You know, that what is the sounds in the woods, and that was very, very creepy. Let me add, speaking of woods, where did you guys film?
We filmed this in Truman, Arkansas. It's not in the woods. We brought in about 400 tons of earth and shaped the mountains and then built the walls and everything to really hide the flat land that we were in. And so, and then we also used a place called Parker Homestead for and it's this, like, they take old buildings and they leave them there. So the actual schoolhouse and Annie's exterior cabin was at this place, and Matt just went in and kind of like put the walls around it in our shots. And we also brought in lamp posts that are gas powered, and we kind of moved those around. We got that from the production designer for Dirty Dancing. They shot that movie in like 4 completely different states, and he was like, I didn't know how to link them together, so I just made these like lamp posts and I put them everywhere. And so we stole that idea, and it worked really well.
I also think it's funny, the really deep woods stuff was actually the neighbor of the house we were staying in had like this foresty area in the front of their house. And we're like, can we just film here? And it looks so deep and so huge. It looks like such a deep, amazing forest. I don't know how we pulled that off.
Sometimes you get lucky.
Yeah.
Shallow focus.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Luke.
So David Arquette's in this movie, and he just came out with Scream and all that. So this is awesome that it's
we're not mentioning that other David Arquette movie.
It's totally fun. It's great.
People know him from Scream.
Yeah.
I'm
and
kidding.
We're a horror podcast that talks about Scream. But yeah, what was it like working with him and just developing his character?
There he is. We had worked with David a bunch throughout the years, and we had produced 12-hour Shift with him, which he also was in. And so he came on board this one. And I'm trying to think about his character. It was just such a loving character. Like everybody who sees that character.
He's like the hope of the film.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And it was just such a nice, and there's also elements of our personality in there with the cameras and stuff like that. It was just, it's like you can have a horror movie, but it doesn't always work unless you have these like elements in it that are like, that take you back down and relax you for a moment. And then when sometimes horrible things happen to those elements, it just makes the horror even more intense.
Yeah. Good way to put it.
Wow. Well, because I tell you what, I was impressed. David's a big get. He's a hot commodity right now. How did you guys? I mean, did you have an ongoing relationship with him? You've worked with him before, or how did you pitch this project to him?
We were making documentaries, and we ended up making a documentary on a puppeteer at one of his a nightclub that he owns in LA. And he saw the documentary, and he was like, "This is great." And so we kind of started doing little things here and there for him. And when we had made Squirrel. And we had done several feature documentaries, our company. And so when we were doing 12-hour shifts, we said, hey, do you guys want to be a part of this? And he was like, absolutely. So we did that. And then when we got the money for Ghosts, we said the same thing. And it was really great. It was great because not only did he play Douglas, but he got the script to Tim Blake Nelson. And Tim read the script and really liked it and jumped on board from there. So it was really awesome. Really nice.
Yeah, very fruitful.
Yeah.
Nice. Let me ask you this. You guys, I don't know how big the production was, but like, what were some of the challenges of making this film? This was your baby, I think, co-written, co-directed, and yeah, you have another writer that also helped write as well.
Yeah, Tara Perry, my wife, she wrote the film as well. She also stars as Annie.
And, nice.
Yeah, and Matt and her produced it as well. So yeah, we had to wear a lot of hats. Yeah, it's a very indie film budget, $1 million, and so and we feel like we pushed the limits of that budget as far as we could, and I'm really proud of what we achieved. And
we had to shoot 2 or 3 months. We started shooting after COVID began, after the lockdown began. So Jordan had to come up with a bunch of precaution. What are they called?
Just like all of our COVID procedure. I have a mentor who's in the government. He's the director of inclusion and diversity at the Pentagon. And I was able to kind of like bounce all of my COVID protocol off of them. And he let me talk to professionals there. And they're like, this is exactly what we're doing. So go after it. And so we were in a really unique position. We were one of the first people up and running. And we were the first to finish safely without any incidents. So yeah, we had a lot of people helping us get through it. And, but man, it's really nice when you work with people that you work with all the time and you're just a single unit. It's real helpful.
Nice.
Well, it's also nice that the movie almost has a quarantine sense to it. So it's like, you're already kind of preparing all that. So it's like the movie set, or even the filmmaking process probably even worked with what was going on.
Yeah, we lucked out with some big crowd scenes where everyone's wearing masks. And we lucked out by having those masks even before COVID. And we were able to put like N95 masks on them underneath the masks and everything, so everybody was protected.
Oh, that's good.
And then we only had like 15 extras. So in post, we went to Jordan's backyard, put up a green screen, and then Jordan and a couple other people just pretended to be in the crowd a bunch, and I put them in post.
Because I know. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, not at all. It's just
like Luke and I are both we're both screenwriters as well, and we had there was a big production this past year, and I fully appreciate the aspect of once COVID is involved and how that adds expenses and time and protocols and days and just start stretching it out. So maybe filming in Arkansas rather than LA was definitely in your favor there. That's for sure.
Definitely,
at
absolutely.
the time, at least. I mean, now Arkansas is not
in a tough spot. But at that time, there wasn't a whole lot of cases, and it was awesome because the community came around us. I mean, we had an embassy suite that gave us an entire floor, just to keep us safe. They really wanted to let the movie happen and keep everybody there.
Everybody had like living rooms and
it was huge.
Yeah,
it was quite an incredible feat, and it was just neat. The crew we had really came to bat, and they were prepared to keep everybody safe and like knock it out of the park. And and
we didn't even mention the tornado that happened right before we started shooting.
Yeah, we had a tornado that tore down a large section of the fence we had built, and it was about 30 feet high in places. And so that was, there's stuff like that. But man, you just keep going, right? Y'all know it, indie filmmaking, like you just don't stop. You just put one foot in front of the other, and then at some point you're lucky enough to get to sit here and be like, oh my God, thanks so much, guys. This is incredible.
I bet you're tempted to just start film the tornado. Let's get some of that footage in there. We'll make it work.
We we tried to get plates of storms just in case, but
well, we are kind of we just got about 2.5 minutes left here, but like that just brings up a cool question, and then Luke, you can jump on after this. A lot of supernatural themed films, they come away with stories of unusual things that happened on the set, and you just mentioned their tornado. And maybe sometimes it's just a product of marketing. So anything unusual happened on set in the production of the film?
Real ghosts?
Man, I will tell you this, and this is everybody, all the actors had something that they endured. Because it didn't end up in the film, I'll tell you this. We set Tim Blake Nelson on fire and for the film. And
thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, not just for fun. And he went through all the procedures, he got ready for it, and he did a marvelous job, but it really slowed down the pacing of the film in the section that it was in. And Tim was such a trooper that he was like, yeah, of course, that makes all the sense in the world. So I got to hand it to him. Like, it wasn't something spooky or scary, but it was pretty scary for us. So,
oh, goodness. All right, Cheeseman, what you got as we end up?
So true story. Before I watched the movie, I just happened to be watching Seinfeld, and one of the episode with Jackie, Kramer's lawyer,
Jackie Charles.
Yeah. And then I started watching the movie. I'm like, he looks really familiar, and it took me a second. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the lawyer from Seinfeld, and I'm like, what a great character actor. I mean, he plays like so many different roles so convincingly. Like, what was it like having him on set? Was he goofy? Was he serious? Or what? Yeah, what was the process like directing him?
Mr. Phil Morris.
Yeah, Phil Morris. He was great.
He is serious, and we love. I mean, like he comes off book, he comes ready to go, and I mean, it was an incredible experience to have Phil because he is the consummate professional, and he is such a wonderful human. And honestly, even outside of acting, like just hanging out with the extras and being around them, we all learned a lot from Phil Morris. And I don't know if I ever really got to say that out loud, but I love that dude, and he is ready to play. I mean, right now he's on Doom Patrol. He's on like Star Wars. I mean, he's doing so great, and I'm so glad because he deserves every bit of it.
I remember.
I didn't. Go ahead.
Oh, we just wrapped him, and he was leaving. And I was like, my mom's such a huge Seinfeld fan. I ran up to him like, my mom really likes Seinfeld. Would you mind doing a video for her? And he's like, sure. And he made this great video for my mom, and it's just
it's priceless.
As Jackie.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
You know what? His Jackie character is just so iconic. But then when I looked him up on IMDb, I was like, oh, let me look up. Man, that guy is in demand. He's been in so much. Like he's super busy. So I mean, that must have been a big get for you guys to be able to get him to participate in this project.
Definitely.
It was. Tara Perry and him starred in a Roddenberry short like around 2015 or 16. So before we even started writing it, she had showed me Phil Morris's voice, and that was kind of the voice that was in our head for Matthew the whole time. And what a voice to be able to actually have come on set and do it. We were stoked.
And I know like most of the confrontation scenes, good and bad, between Tommy and him, like Tommy was just loved being like face to face with him for those things. Like the sort of he was such a giving
Energy.
actor, and the energy was so great that it was like.
And I don't know if I mentioned this to you guys, but like a lot of those scenes that were between these two characters, we thought would be yelling, and they were just calm and direct, and it was so terrifying. Even when we were shooting it, we were like, wow, we never could have like imagined that ourselves. Like it was really Phil taking that character and making it.
And there was a final scene in the movie of his character that we ended up cutting because it was based on what we had thought the character would do. And his performance was so great that section just didn't do justice for his character. So we ended up rewriting what happened at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Because he was so great.
Yeah.
Well, we do have to wrap up here, guys. Cheeseman, do you have a final question for Jordan and Matt?
What's next?
Yep.
Yeah, we've got several projects we like to world build. So right now we're in Unreal Engine 5 building some interiors for a film that Matt wrote. It's a little fantastical film about grief called The Quiet Girl. And so we're building those right now, doing some pre-shot listing and
just using it to get into the world and check out shots and stuff.
Yeah, fun. Just doing anything indie filmmaker we can to push.
That's fantastic. My last question is a two-parter. One, where can people watch Ghost of the Ozarks? And two, where can people find out and follow your career?
Number one, it'll be on all streaming platforms, or they're called streamers, like things like iTunes and Amazon and stuff like
YouTube
that.
and then
on demand.
Yeah, and then it'll be in Alamo Draft Houses.
Nice.
Yeah, in LA and New York and Austin and Phoenix.
A bunch of other places. Check your local listing.
Yeah. And then and you can find us at HCT Media is our production company. You can find that on Instagram and kind of check out everything that we're doing and how we do it.
Nice.
I think
Right.
we did daily updates on the entire build of Ghost. So if you get real bored, you can go back and see how it works.
Actually, and we'll be releasing about an hour-long documentary in 5 sections about the making of the film, probably on our YouTube channel or something.
Yeah, and it will be attached to the DVDs that they've made as well. So yeah, check it out.
Go ahead. So to find your YouTube channel, that is what?
HCT Media.
HCT Media, right? The hat. HCT Media. Check it out. Jordan and Matt, congratulations on the film. Thank you for joining us here on the Scare Guys show today. You can find me at James D. Fry on Instagram or Jim Fry LA on Twitter. What about you, Cheeseman?
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Cheese on Couch and also on thescareguy.com.
All right. Thank you all. We'll join you back here next time at thescareguy.com here on the Scare Guys show. Jordan and Matt, best of luck.
Hey, thank you both so much.
Bye.